Our reading for this Good Friday reflection is taken from Mark's Gospel at chapter 14, reading verses 66 to 72. While Peter was below in the courtyard, one of the servant girls of the high priest came by. When she saw Peter warming himself, she looked closely at him. "You also were with that Nazarene, Jesus," she said. But he denied it. "I don't know or understand what you're talking about," he said, and went out into the entrance. When the servant girl saw him there, she said again to those standing around, "This fellow is one of them." Again, he denied it. After a little while, those standing near said to Peter, "Surely you are one of them, for you are a Galilean." He began to call down curses on himself, and he swore to them, "I don't know this man you're talking about." Immediately, the cock crowed the second time. Then Peter remembered the word Jesus had spoken to him. "Before the cock crows twice, you will disown me 3 times." And he broke down and wept. Peter's denial of Jesus. When trouble comes your soul to try, you love the friend who just stands by. Perhaps there's nothing he can do, the thing is strictly up to you. For there are troubles all your own, and paths the soul must tread alone. Times when love cannot smooth the road, nor friendship lift the heavy load. But just to know you have a friend who will stand by until the end, whose sympathy through all endures, whose warm hand clasp is always yours. It helps some way to pull you through, although there's nothing he can do. And so, with fervent heart, you cry, "God bless the friend who just stands by." This poem by B.Y. Williams reminds me of the story in Mark and other Gospels of Peter's denial of Jesus, just in so many ways. On the face of it, Jesus might have, at least in earthly terms, hoped that after he was arrested, his friend Peter, big, brave Peter, would have been the one to stand by him and all he stood for. Of course, Jesus already knew that by the time the cock crowed twice, Peter would have already denied him 3 times. This denial of his Lord by Peter is one of the most poignant moments in the New Testament. As we read in Mark's Gospel and in Matthew chapter 26, from verses 69 to 75, while Jesus is being questioned, Peter is in the courtyard denying he ever knew him. This is the disciple who at the Last Supper pledged complete loyalty to Jesus, who, according to Luke, said, "Lord, I am ready to go to prison with you, and even to die with you." But Jesus said, "I tell you, Peter, before the cock crows today, you will deny 3 times that you know me." These words of Jesus to Peter must have stung at the time. I suspect that Peter did not, in fact, either believe or understand them. If a friend told you that when they needed you most, the first thing you would do was to let them down, you would be pretty downhearted to begin with. We would rather imagine that we were the person in B.Y. Williams' poem who stands by our friends, even though we know that what they are going through is something they must deal with alone. You could say that while Peter doesn't initially ever think that he would let Jesus down, when he sees him being led away by the soldiers to be brought before the high priest, the reality, the gravity of the situation begins to grip him, and fear begins to take over. The most usual human reaction to fear is self-preservation, self-protection. It is to run away. An almost casual, a simple remark by a servant girl causes Peter to panic. Would we, in all honesty, have reacted any differently? I think not. What was Peter afraid of? Being arrested? Being tortured? Being crucified? We will never know, but we cannot blame him. Jesus always told his disciples not to be afraid. But that was easy for the disciples when Jesus was with them. Once he had been arrested, that was so much harder. However, it was the crow of the rooster that brought Peter back to himself, to the man he was before and would be from that moment on. When he heard the cock crow, he broke down and wept. Peter sees Jesus bloodied from his beating, helpless, and he is ashamed. It is often remarked that tears are a grace from God. They are an acknowledgement that we are broken, that things are not as they perhaps should be, almost certainly not as we would want them to be. Peter was redeemed by his tears. Through his tears, he realized his faith in Jesus. We can too. We can be healed by the grace of tears. As Charlie Mackesy says in the words of the horse, everyone is a bit scared, but we are less scared together. And also remember, tears fall for a reason, and they are your strength, not your weakness. Amen.